Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time! We are still in 1987 and we are still in Zelda 2. When we last left off, I was pretty tilted. That was pretty bad. I have taken a day off and I'm hoping for the best. We are going to the end of the game today. That is the ultimate goal. So let's just head into the Great Palace. Like I mentioned last time, if you die and get a game over in the Great Palace, you'll respawn here. So that's nice, I guess. We'll head down the elevator and head to the left and once again hope for the best. We have an upgrade enemy here. This is, instead of throwing like chains or whatever it was before, it throws fire. This is a Fokeru. I'm only going to say that once because that doesn't sound right to me. All right, we're going to head up and then we are going to avoid the false floor there right after that pillar. So right at that pillar you want to jump. Otherwise, you will fall down right where those bots are. No surprises there. Let's head down and get in the elevator properly so we can head down. And then it is to the right. And we'll see what we can do. This all looks very scary, but I don't think enemies spawn in this room. Every time I do it, it feels wrong. Feels like I'm doing something incorrect since nothing spawned on me. But we'll keep going, and then eventually we will find an enemy. Another one of these. And yes, occasionally the fire will chase you, so if you can get on a different level than the fire, it will help out a lot. Okay, let's head down from here. And no, I don't need to deal with any magic yet. Because we have these guys. Remember, these are called Raws. One of the more annoying enemies of the game. These are upgrades. I'm not sure if they take more damage to kill because I rarely ever bother trying to kill them, so I don't even know what the other ones took. But they do more damage, so try to avoid them. It's not too difficult unless you get caught where you shouldn't be. Now they're coming from behind me. I don't like that at all. All right, but I can make it through. Okay. And here's where I'm going to have to cast Shield because we have an upgrade to the Blue Iron Knuckle. That one is called a Faka. Once again, that's probably going to be the only time you hear me say that. They are basically blue iron knuckles, but they can also jump, and when they jump, they will jump at you. Because they know that damage is done to you and not to them. Which I think is not fair, but what do I know? Okay, we'll make it all the way to the end here, and then we'll go down one level, and it looks like there's nowhere I can go. We want to go left, though, through a hidden wall. And up here, we are going to attempt this. Nope! That's why I said attempt it. We're going to take the elevator back up and down. And try again. Wastes a lot of magic doing this, of course. It has a chance to spawn a red magic jar, but I think it resets every time. I don't think it's set in stone. If I do it like 5 times, though. Come on. There we go. Okay, let's set it to life. Get it and see what we can recover. I probably could have snuck another life in there, but I think that'll be okay. Okay, that's all we needed to do here. So let's head back and then we will take the elevator down. And I believe that we want to go all the way down. And we're going to take what's known as the direct route here. There's more like pea bags and red magic jars and things like that there's technically a fairy in here as well. If you want to get those... Actually, there isn't a pea bag. No. So there's red magic jars and a fairy the other way. But we are going to go to the right and avoid those because I don't feel the need to be completionist about this anymore. Come on. And you just fell off the screen. You fell off the side. I feel like that's cheating. Alright. Oh, right. Fire. And the raws. Once again, the fastest way is to just motor and get hit on the way out, of course. Yeah. There is one here as well. Let's try to get it. Okay. Let's cast life. And... I can't... No! So close. So close. Maybe having jump is not always fun. Okay. Let's head in here. We have some bots that I'm going to have to deal with kind of no matter what, so... Might as well. Alright, let's go for that. Is that the last one? I think there's another one. Can I hit you through here? That is helpful. Okay. Let's just see if we can't... No, I'm not going to be able to avoid him. And it's so hard to gauge where he is. Alright. No. And he just constantly spams. Alright, so there's a life gone. I should drop a save. I should have been doing that this whole time, but... We'll spawn at the beginning of this room. Let's go ahead and get shield up. Just in case bad things happen, which we know they will. Bad things being the enemies there. That is a bad thing. I would love if I had more health. Alright, well, you're already here. Okay, let's drop a save so I don't have to kill those things again. Yeah, you jumping makes it so much harder on me. Because like, other enemies kind of respected your personal space. This guy does not. The jumping enemies don't. And, God. Really. Ugh. Just a nightmare. I wish that I could go through him faster, but all right, we're retrying that. Okay, so here he is. That was too high for my shield because he was slightly in the air. And of course, he blocks everything my way. And I can only down thrust him when he's got the... And he maintains momentum. Like, his physics work differently than my physics. Like, if I hit a ceiling, I stop my momentum forward. He does not. How many hits do you take? Jeez, all for 100. Like, we might have to redo that. That was bad. But, like, I haven't figured out a good strategy for him. At least I don't remember my old strategy. Maybe it was just to bypass him. Right, can't... Right. Okay! Like, already things are not going great. Right, once again, like, he hits a wall, but he will keep his horizontal momentum despite hitting the wall. So once he's done on the wall, he'll keep going, which does not happen for me. And we've respawned a bot. Oh my god. Like, this guy is insane. And it's just, this is just one enemy, right? I swore I had my shield up for that. Okay. And I can't avoid him. Unless, okay, we're just going to avoid him. That seems to be the better way to go. Just eat whatever damage it takes to get past him. And then go. And then he caught up to me, but that's fine. Okay. Let's hop. And just eat one more damage. Because of course we have to. And then we can make it to another elevator. Jeez. Once we make it there, we want to head down. And then there are curtains here, but that doesn't mean anything this time. For the first time, the curtains mean nothing. The giant bubble here. Jeez. Don't try to kill it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. It doesn't give you any experience. So just move on. Okay. Oh, right. Now I have to figure out a method for you. And once again, no respect for personal space. And that is death, right? Yep, okay. I will meet you back down there. And I will try to be a little bit better about not taking damage. It'll be fun! Hooray. Alright, I made it back to where the trouble started. This time I have full life and magic. So what we're going to do is we're going to cast shield, and I'm going to try to avoid having to fight this guy. That's the ultimate plan. That's the goal. So we're going to wait for him to jump one more time, and try to make a break for it. And see if I can get away from him. It's probably not going to happen too well, but like yeah, it's better than fighting him, which is not a good thing. When it's better for me to just run through an enemy than actually try to fight them. That's never good, especially since he only gives 70 experience points. Like, not worth it. Alright, this one I should be able to do if the bubble doesn't get in my way too much. It still takes 6 hits to take that down. Not good. Alright, so we made it. This is another one where I kind of shield and hope for the best. Just make a break for it. Eat a hit or two, then go. And I should be able to make it past him. Alright, we did it! I'm gonna drop another save! That's the strategy. Like, just run past him. Eat the damage and go past it. It's better. Okay, let's do a life and a jump. And see how much magic we get at the end of that. Close. It's close. I ate a little bit more damage than I would like, but we should be fine. We do have that. And let's drop down here, and then we will head to the left first. I don't think it really matters which way I go first. As long as the bots all kill themselves, we'll be good. Over here we can get a doll. This is technically doll number 6 in the game. I don't know if I've collected them all at this point, but yeah, okay. I don't see a reason to ever try to fight these guys at this point. Let them go. But that gives us 3 additional lives and keys that I don't need. Ooh. I will save that for later because I'm already full on life. It's not too difficult to get. You just have to down thrust and be very careful when you try again. If you down thrust too far, you will not make it. Okay. Let's head left from here as I drop another save. No surprises there. Really? Okay. Can I hit you from here? Okay. Yeah, I'm not... God, these enemies are just annoying. And there's so much randomness that goes along with it. Okay. Once I make it through there... Then... Yeah, this is a spot where I'm gonna have to save again. Okay. Let me try to get this set up. Remember, this is the direct way. There's a longer way that you can go. Okay. Just kind of need to stop a little bit since they're not letting me jump. Isn't that... I thought we made it all the way to the end. Apparently not. What am I doing here? I see. There is a spot where I need to drop down. It's about here. There we go. Okay, and then from once again, so much fun. We head to the right. Oh, fun! Like just landed on me. Once again, once I'm down thrusting, I'm kind of locked into place. We have lives, right? That's basically like a refill of magic and health. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, let's make a break for it here. Jump over you, jump over here, and then down here I go. Yeah. There was a fairy up there. Crap. Let's go back. Okay. We're back here. It's about here? No! There's one! There's two spots you can drop down there. Okay. And there we go. I almost don't want to deal with you. Let's lure you over here. And then just do that, and then... Okay, it doesn't respawn. I was thinking that I might have gotten close enough. Okay, let's drop save here because I believe that there is something that I want on the far right here. And then I can come back and fall down there as necessary. Should be fine. Okay, somehow we made it through that. Thought I ducked. I am ducking. Those are fireballs. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother with casting Reflect at this point. But that's there. Okay, through the end of this, giant bubbles. Once again, don't bother wasting your time trying to kill them. Won't do anything for you, but there's a fairy at the end of this. That's what we came for. Okay. Now, look how much damage they take up, too. I'm not sure that getting this fairy was worth it at the end of it because I have to go back through this room with the fire that I can't destroy or block without Reflect. I mean, I guess nope, it's not worth it. After all of that, because of these guys and their annoyances, it wasn't worth it at the end. Well, I guess I get to kill you. Please don't fall on me. Okay, let's cast life, and now we want to go left, and in one of these, that might have been it. Yeah, that was supposed to be a red magic jar, but it turned into an enemy instead. Two enemies in a row. Okay, we're not accepting those odds. So, where was I? Here? Yes. Okay. Let's try to do this again. And drop... We're not going for the fairy. It's not worth it for me. Okay. And hoping for the best. There we go. That's what I like to see. And that gets me back up to full on everything. It does! Save state abuse. It's working for me. I feel real bad about it. Don't get me wrong. But that's it. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we're absolutely dropping a save here. We're gonna move forward. 4. Well, this looks promising. 4 boss time. First thing we need to do is cast Thunder, and then we want to cast Shield and Reflect. Now, we don't. Oh, we need to cast Jump as well. I was about to say, because I'm not getting hits in. There we go. You gotta go for like the top of the head. That little white spot is what I am aiming for. But yeah, fire is coming out of there so often that pretty much every time I go up, it feels like I'm gonna get hit. But yes, you have to cast Thunder to make it vulnerable. Then you have to cast everything you have in terms of like offensive magic so that you can go down. That was the Thunderbird. And we get a little bit of that. And then you get 1,000 experience. Do I just move forward? Do I have to go back and get the magic jars? I don't think I do. I think I just go forward. Okay. Let's see. We'll test it. No, they created Shadow Link. I should have gotten. Yeah, I should have gotten the red magic jar. You know what? We have lives. So the cheap way of fighting this enemy is doing what I'm doing, and that's absolutely how we're going to fight this one. This is Shadow Link. Shadow Link is harder than almost any enemy in the game. So there you go. That's how you're supposed. That's the trick: is duck in the corner and attack, and eventually he'll go down. You can like jump over him and stab and all that stuff, but it's so much harder. I think I've always done it this way, and we have won. We did it. It's the cheap way of doing things, but I've been doing that for a while, haven't I? But we got the 3rd Triforce. We got what we came for. And we have rescued the princess. You saved Hyrule. And you are a real hero. Hooray. The end. And there we go. Executive producer. Is it Shigeru Miyamoto? No, it's Yamauchi. Right. Okay, so we have beaten the game. We did it. Producer is Miyahan. That's Miyamoto, right? Or is this... Yeah, Sujion Yamahen. Yeah, we have a lot of nicknames here, is what I believe to be true, because these are not the official names, but we have beaten the game! Yeah, once again, like, I did it kind of the cheap way, but, you know, especially towards the end where things just started getting too problematic, where it was just like, it's gonna cost me less health to get hit a couple times by enemies and run through them than it will be for me to actually stand and try to fight them. So there we go. We got some programmers. There's a lot that I want to talk about, so we'll get into that. Thanks a million. Push start to replay. So, is there a second quest to Zelda 2? Let's see. We can play as this one. This is the one that we set up, right? And we can start the game over, but basically with full stats. Not full upgrades entirely, but full stats. We have 8 magic, 8 life, and 8 attack. And you can just kind of start over that way. And so enemies should go down very quickly. Notice those bots go down in one hit. Everything should go down in one hit at the beginning. But basically, that's the game. So with the game played, it's time to talk about how it holds up today. I have a lot of thoughts. Before we get into the modern review, though, I did want to show off a little bit of the Famicom Disk System version, so we will let the intro music for that play. We will show a bit of the Famicom Disk System version of the game and let that play from some footage that I took earlier while we get into the modern review so that you can see a little bit of the differences that are going on in the game, at least in the introduction. But it's time to talk about the modern review. Did the game hold up? Is the game fun to play today? Did I have fun? And the answer is a qualified yes. There is some fun for me playing this game, and I do have to say some fun, because as it went on, the fact that I kept on coming back to the game and tried to finish it shows that there was at least some fun that I was having. With that said, though, there's definitely a lot of frustration with this game. We have talked about that with some of the other early Nintendo titles, the kind of early NES and Famicom titles that we have played to this point, where there's kind of a built-in level of frustration when things don't quite work the way that you expect. And the difficulty level on these games is high, basically to try to stretch out the game. Because I believe that if you know what you're doing and you just kind of go through the motions and never struggle, this is probably about a 4-hour game, which is not a long time, especially considering that it is supposed to be an action RPG, and some of the other RPGs that we have played take hundreds, if not thousands of hours to do, even if you know what you're doing. But a lot of the length of the game is due to the difficulty, and the difficulty spikes in the game. There are definitely some parts of the game where you could be just cruising along and then you try to get to the next spot and all of a sudden it is so much harder. And a lot of that has to do with the battle system of the game. The gameplay of the game, I think, is the biggest thing that holds it back from being a true classic or a game that I would want to go back to often. The gameplay itself, the actual day-to-day, I guess you could say, battling and maneuvering and progressing and all that, I'm not a big fan of. I don't think that it works well the way they have it designed. And I was trying to think as we were going through the game what it reminded me of, because obviously this didn't come out of nowhere. It stems from years of history in action RPG titles, but I think that it drew from other titles as well. In particular, I've decided, at least right now, the game reminds me the most of Castlevania and Ghosts and Goblins. those two games have a side-scrolling attack a whole bunch of enemies at once sometimes, but really it just kind of feels like here's an encounter, you have to deal with it, how do you get through this? So Castlevania is definitely what I felt like the most, but then as we started getting towards the end of the game, it started reminding me more of Ghosts and Goblins, both of which are very difficult games, or at least seen as difficult games. Ghosts and Goblins, I think, is a lot harder than Castlevania, but I think this game's probably somewhere in the middle. There's definitely some hard parts of this game. I would say that the boss fights in Castlevania are a little bit more difficult than in Zelda, but I think overall Zelda is probably a more difficult game because even getting to the boss fights is very difficult. It's an interesting way to kind of look at the game if I remove the Zelda aspects of it, and we'll talk about how it relates to Zelda a little bit more, at least the original Zelda more. But if I remove Zelda from it and just kind of take it for what it is, if we're playing a kind of medieval game where I attack with a sword and shield and we're kind of doing duels like that, it reminds me more of Castlevania. And it feels like they took some of the good aspects from Castlevania, but they took some of the bad aspects as well. The fact that they have an enemy that moves the same way, that's just a head, right? The Medusa heads in Castlevania and the Raws in Zelda 2, they have the same attack pattern. They do the exact same thing. It's hard not to see the comparison there. And I think those are one of the most annoying aspects of both games. Combine that with the fact that you have lots of pits that you can fall into that are instant kills every time, which is pretty common, granted, for the time to have an instant kill pit. But combine that with the fact that when you get hit, you jump backwards slightly. And I swear Zelda and Simon Belmont almost have the same pose that they have when they jump back and get hit. That makes for a frustrating experience a lot because you think that you're going to make it, and often there'll be an enemy that kind of spawns right after you jump or right before you jump. Either way, you don't really have time to react, and now you're screwed and going to fall into the pit because when you land on the other side, you're going to get hit, jump backwards a little bit, and die. And as we got towards the end of this game, that became much more a prevalent way of the game designers adding difficulty to the game. I also felt that as we moved forward through the game, it never really felt like I was getting stronger. It just took less hits for me to kill enemies, but then they would upgrade an enemy and it felt like it was the same. That happens a lot where, you know, we were encountering the orange iron knuckle and now we can kill it in one shot. But as soon as that happens, the red one shows up. So it still takes multiple hits. And then as soon as we're one-shotting the red one, the blue one shows up. And now we need an even more advanced strategy and it takes more hits. It never felt like I was getting more powerful. It just kind of felt like I needed to upgrade my character in order to progress through the game. Kind of like the fairy spell or the spell or the thunder spell, where it didn't feel like these were upgrades. They were just mechanics for me to move forward. And I think that it fails in the sense that there's a lot of power creep, but the power creep is ever present. So it never feels like I'm getting more powerful. And even if I go back to some of the other enemies, I can deal with them a little bit easier, but it never really felt like I was getting more powerful. It just felt like I was needing to do this in order to progress. And it was much more about strategies than it was the power. And granted, that's kind of how some RPGs work, but I don't necessarily like that. I like feeling powerful. And I think this game also suffers from the fact that it has the duels. It's kind of a dual fighting system. Most of the enemies that you're encountering are in one-on-one duels, which can be fun, granted, but when it's almost every enemy, when it's just one after another, where you have to remember your strategies for each individual enemy, like what do I do For the jumping spiders, oh, that's right, I have to cast fire and then stand here, block their attack, then throw the fire at them a couple times, and then they'll go down. How do I deal with the iron knuckles? That's right, I can do a jump and then time it so I hit like the top of their head and that'll hit them every time. That's fine for certain fights, but when it's almost every fight, it just kind of gets exhausting. And that's what I would say about this game, is that it's exhausting. It can get frustrating because on top of that, I would say that the enemies are better, I guess you could say swordsmen, depending on what they kind of have, but they're better duelists. That's a better word than Link is. And that is pervasive throughout the entire game, is that the enemies that you are fighting are better fighters than you, and they use similar tactics, so it feels like you're always coming from underneath. You're always the underdog. You're never the more powerful one. And even at the end, when I was fully powered up, I checked as I was testing things against the blue Faka, one of the blue Fakas that we fought. He could kill me in 5 hits. It only took 5 hits because I had, I think it was 5. It could have been 6. Maybe I miscounted, but he would take 1.5 little squares of health every time he hit me, and I only had 8, right? So I think that was 6, but it could, like, maybe it was 5 and it was just a little bit more than that, right? But he was killing me in 5 or 6 hits, and I was killing him in 7 or 8, if I counted correctly. So even fully powered up, the enemies are stronger than me. And this isn't a boss. This is just a normal enemy. And because the numbers are so low that it's less than 10 hits each hit feels so bad. And once you get hit once, it throws off your routine, it throws off your strategy, and you're going to get hit a couple more times. So it's not a well-designed system, I feel. It's not a good system to have duels that are more or less one-on-one, where the enemies can outmaneuver you, outdamage you, out-tank you, have abilities that you don't have, can react faster than you can, and have strategies to them where you're always on the defensive. I feel is not a good fighting system. It's not at least what I would enjoy a battle system to be if I was designing it from scratch, but this is what they've kind of gone with. And it's a bit of an exaggeration because there are things that you can do to kind of get things on your side, where, like with the iron knuckles, you can jump and there's a certain spot where you can hit them on top of their head that they can't defend. But you, as a protagonist, also have that spot. It's just not apparent that you have it until you get to enemies that can jump and shoot projectiles at you. And most enemies in this game do have some form of projectile, at least as you get towards the end of the game. And you only have it when you're at full health. They have it permanently, and some of their stuff cannot be blocked. And a lot of your stuff will always be blocked because they can react faster than you can most of the time. And a lot of that has to do with the most basic aspect of the game, which is Link's attack. His attack, I feel, is programmed incorrectly for what they were trying to do. Link's attack now involves a backswing, which it absolutely did not in the first game. And so we're going to start shifting into, wait, is this a Zelda game? So in the first game, you hit the button and the sword comes out. Easy. That's the way that it always works in almost every game that we play. In this game, you hit the button and Link takes a backswing first and then attacks, like it's a golf club. What happened to his little stab? And this is where, once again, we kind of get into, is this a Zelda game? Because if we look at it canonically, Link is a worse duelist, a worse fighter, a worse user of short sword and shield in the sequel than he is in the first game. Link was better at blocking, better at attacking, and more powerful, and could take more hits in the first game than he could in the sequel, even at the beginning. So I have to wonder, plot-wise, lore-wise, what happened to Link? Why did he get worse? And why did he lose all his equipment? Why didn't he have the raft anymore? All the stuff, the candle, the flute, all the stuff that we picked up, all the different outfits and upgrades to the sword and all that kind of stuff just kind of got forgotten about? Is that what we're supposed to assume? That Link just forgot about them? That he left them somewhere? That he hid them in the palaces? Why are we going into the palaces to get items? Why are all the palaces filled with monsters before Ganon shows up? Also, Ganon's not in the game. We beat the game. We beat a clone of Link, a shadow Link. Where's Ganon? So ultimately, it felt like this was not a Zelda game. And granted, that was the goal, right? We talked about that at the beginning, that Shigeru Miyamoto wanted something completely different. And I think that in and of itself was the wrong decision. And it's easy to say that in hindsight, but hear me out. The original Legend of Zelda was a phenomenal hit. Granted, it wasn't the biggest hit that Nintendo had. Mario is still doing better, and even the Lost Levels was doing better than The Legend of Zelda in Japan. But people loved The Legend of Zelda, and instead of just making a new game, right? Instead of just making a generic medieval action RPG, it felt like this game just slapped the Zelda name onto it and reskinned it so that everything looks like Zelda. I mean, we don't have Dark Nuts now. We have Iron Knuckles. We have some enemies that came forward that look kind of similar to how they did in the original game, but for the most part, this didn't feel like a Zelda game. It didn't feel like I could just go and explore the world and eventually I would hit a stopping point that would require something from one of the dungeons. This one felt like, go to the next town, get the information you need, get the upgrade that is available in town, which usually involves one small bit of exploration. Either you go to a nearby cave, or in one case you go 10 feet to the left and get water from a fountain. And then you can get the upgrade from the wise man in town. And then you can go into the palace, get the item in the palace, whatever it is, which is a bit similar to the original Legend of Zelda. And then you defeat the boss, get the upgrades, and then leave, although you don't get the same upgrades that you did in the first game. And then that will allow you to unlock a new part of the map, but it's so much clearer in this game. And Hyrule just doesn't feel the same. The graphics definitely don't look the same. The graphics are much more muted than the first game. It doesn't feel bright and cheerful like the original Hyrule. This is a much more, I guess, realistic, but really at the end of the day, it just kind of felt more depressed. It just felt more, like I said, muted. The colors just don't pop the way that they did in the first game. The sound also not as cheerful. It's definitely a more depressed game than the first one, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you combine it with the gameplay that doesn't feel like the original game, and graphics don't feel like the original game, and the sound doesn't feel like the original game, and the plot doesn't quite make sense to the original game, it just doesn't feel like Zelda anymore. And that, I think, is to the game's detriment, because Zelda is such a beloved game. To add on a second one, just call this Zelda 2, when it doesn't feel like the first one at all, I think is something that works against this game. But at the same time, I'm not sure we would be talking about this game, let alone playing it, if it wasn't called Zelda 2. If this was just, I don't know, King Arthur or Charlemagne, any medieval sword and shield character, hell, if it was Conan the Barbarian, I'm not sure we talk about this game. It's decent, but it's not necessarily good or definitely not great. I know that some people do like it, but for me, I think it is such a step down compared to the first game. Probably more of a step down from the original than any sequel that we have played to this point. It's so different. It just doesn't feel like the same game at all. And I think that since they tried so many new things and so many of them didn't work out, and the things that they did take from other games are mostly the complaints that people have from those games. The knockback, the Medusa head patterns, the enemies that can fly at you from angles that you can't attack them off screen and can hit you. And every time you get hit, it's a significant amount of damage. Those are all complaints that people had about Ghosts and Goblins and Castlevania. For those to be brought forward to this game, it's difficult to not complain about them some more. So I did. Those are issues with the game. There are positive aspects of the game, though. The RPG aspects, I think, are good. The fact that you can die and basically all you lose is your location on the map and your experience in the current level, I think is a good way of dealing with it, because you're probably going to get just as much experience going back to where you were. There are positive aspects, but for me, the bad decisions outweigh the good. And therefore, this is not necessarily a game that I would recommend. I'm trying to think of more positive things before I go, because I hate when I'm particularly negative, and this is definitely one of those times. But there are positive aspects. I think that the leveling up system, I think, works pretty well. The fact that you could, if you wanted to, choose which path to go to, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter because you were going to get to max with everything eventually, no matter what. The world is big and expansive. I do like that. There's lots of little hidden areas. There's definitely little sections of the game where you do have something to do in each town. Not every RPG does that at the time. There's little problems to be solved in each town. There's all these different palaces that I think are kind of a mixed bag, especially since some of the designs ended up being reused, I felt, a couple times towards the end. There are definitely a couple rooms that didn't need to exist, other than, well, we just copy-paste this from the dungeon 3 dungeons ago. I keep on calling them dungeons because that's what they are, but they're technically palaces, which makes less lore sense to me. The fact that the game is relatively forgiving. I will give it that. Relatively, in terms of giving you those magic jars, ways to replenish your health and magic, but you had to know it. They're all secrets. Are you going to realize when you hit the statue and an iron knuckle comes out that was just bad luck on your part? Or are you going to leave and come back and try again? No, you're going to hit the statue, go, oh, I guess this one's an iron knuckle. I won't hit that one again. But that's how you're supposed to refill your magic in your life before you go into a dungeon. There's lots of little secrets like that there's really not a way for you to know other than trial and error or word of mouth, because the game does not do a lot to tell you. And like a lot of Zelda games, especially, well, we've just done the 2, the story that's presented in the manual, although is present in the game itself, it feels like 2 different stories often. There's no Impa, there's no nurse. They don't even really tell you what the crystals do. You just start with 6 crystals, and I would love them to integrate the plot into the story more, because the kingdom of Hyrule in the story sounds much fuller than what we get in the game. And that's happened twice now. And the world doesn't look the same as the original. Although, once you get to the bottom of Death Mountain, there are some similarities. That seems to be the only thing. It just feels like 2 completely different games, and this one happened to be named Zelda. So this one is one that I would not recommend. This is definitely a game that is better watched than it is played, because it is frustrating and it requires a lot of muscle memory. The one thing I forgot to talk about before I go is that the hitboxes and the attacking and the jumping, the controls themselves didn't feel quite right to me. There were definitely times when I felt like I had jumped and the character did nothing, or I thought that I had swung the sword and it didn't work. The hitboxes on the enemies didn't seem to line up exactly right. Plus, the reach on the sword is so short. You had to get right up on the enemies sometimes in order to hit them. And of course, they would just walk into you. It just didn't feel correct. It didn't feel like what I was seeing on the screen and what my character was experiencing and what I felt I was doing was lining up very well. So, like I said, overall, the game is not one that I would recommend to a lot of people. If you are a hardcore Zelda fan, absolutely go into this one. This will have an impact. There's a reason we still talked about it. It being named Zelda is the primary reason that we played this game. It's worthwhile if you are a Zelda fan. If you like battling tougher enemies, coming up with strategies, and recycling those strategies as the game gets progressively harder and harder, then maybe this game will have something for you, but it is more frustrating than it is rewarding, I feel. The game doesn't necessarily reward you for your perseverance as well as other games do. It's just kind of, well, you made it further. Are you ready to make it even further? Try harder. If you are a fan of swords and shields and you want something that's a little bit more duel heavy, this might have something for you. But overall, for the majority of people, I would say that this game is one not necessarily skipped entirely, but one that could be summarized with a little bit of clips of what the battle system looks like, and you'll probably get a sense of it. And then you could kind of move on with your day and go, okay, what else is out there? Because, a little bit of spoilers, the Zelda franchise continues, and it gets a lot better than this game. This is definitely seen as the low point of the franchise, at least in the early days. So overall, one to be skipped, but acknowledged. And that's my modern take on the game. When the game was released, Zelda II The Adventure of Link was popular. It became one of the best-selling games for the Famicom Disk System. The game proved popular among the critics at the time as well. The game was seen as having unique gameplay, with one critic stating it showed a natural step in the franchise's evolution. However, the game's graphics and sound were seen as weaker points of the game. As time has gone on, the game's reputation has not been quite as positive. While the game is typically seen as a good RPG, the deviations from the original game have often been scrutinized. Despite the lower popularity, though, Zelda 2 does occasionally make lists of the best video games of all time. Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link would receive ports and re-releases. We'll keep an eye on these as we continue. It would also not be the last game in the Zelda franchise. We'll be seeing more games in the franchise in the future as well. As for Nintendo, the company would continue to be a big name in the video game industry. We will continue to track the history of Nintendo in the future. As for the individual creators behind the game, they would all make video games in the future as well. We will hear from all of them again as we continue. That will do it for the story of Zelda 2 for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we head back to the diamond.